G'day legends. In this video, we're going to take a look at control surfaces, one in particular, the Behringer X-Touch. Now, I get questions about this device all the time, popping up in the videos. What's that thing on your desk? Or if they already know what it is, they ask me what I think about it. So it's obviously something you guys care about and are interested in. So let's take a little bit of a dive into this control surface and see if it's worth having something like this in your studio. So let's run through some of the kind of basic features of the X-Touch. So you can skip between individual channels. So you can move along through here. Pressing the select button obviously selects the channel that you're working on and highlights it within the door as well. So you can really visualize what you're doing. And it also then lets you choose from different options on that channel. And so you can also skip between banks. So we have 8 channels, so we can jump 8 channels at a time if you want to quickly move through the session. In the door, you've got zooming, so you can push this in and you can tap to zoom in and out, which is a nice little feature. And you've also got this transport wheel. Now this thing really bugs me because this is probably the glitchiest part about my X-Touch. I don't know if it does it for everyone else's, but mine in particular, when I scroll quickly through the session, you can see it bounces around. Even when I try to go backwards, it's particularly bad. You can see it's very jerky and not very smooth. So when I'm really trying to get somewhere, a lot of the times it sort of just hops around the session and makes it hard to dial in and makes it easier if I just use my mouse. Which, when I first got this, I really liked this. It was a lot better, so maybe there's something going on in here. Maybe there's some dirt or something. I did pull the knob off and have a look, but I couldn't really see any issues. If you have one of these and it works fine, drop it in the comments because this could just be an issue with my device. So we've got our main volume here. This is just like the master in Logic, so you can see at the top, so it turns everything right down. So up here we have our global view, so we could click that and then we pick one of these options. So we got audio tracks and it's going to show us everything that's in the global window, even if it's hidden. So you can see these muted tracks, they're actually hidden out here, but they're going to show up when we have the global view and audio track selected. And so you don't have to hit that button, you can just press any of these buttons and it starts jumping through your list of options. So your auxiliaries, buses if you got any, outputs, audio instruments, just a click, inputs, nothing's assigned there at the moment. So there's no MIDI in this, so I can't jump to any MIDI tracks, so on and so forth. So a great way of quickly finding certain things within the session. So on your individual channels, you've got the record button, so you can hit that, arm it for recording, and then you could use your record button down here to fire off and away you go, but I don't actually want to record anything there right now. And then you've got your solo and your mute. Now this is one of the features about the X-Touch that's really great, is that you can solo and mute tracks at the same time. So if you're trying to compare two things, say like you recorded 2 different microphones on a vocalist and you want to see which one you prefer the sound of, you don't have to do a lot of clicking of muting and soloing and jumping between stuff. You can play the track, you'd have one soloed, and then as it's playing you could skip to the other one, simultaneously doing that without having to stop at any point, and you can really hear the difference when you're doing that. So that's a really great feature. Same deal if you got one track muted and one playing, and then you can listen to the whole thing in the context of the track and then mute the other one. It's a really great way of being able to compare sounds. Being able to do multiple mutings and solos all at the same time is a great feature. One thing that does bother me about the X-Touch is that it's actually a really flat unit. There is nothing holding it up. So on my desk, I actually have some foam underneath this that's propping it up at a bit of an angle so I can actually see the screens. When this is flat on the desk, you can't read these at all, and it's quite annoying. So it probably would have been a good idea if they built in like some stands underneath it that folded out. That's just my 2 cents, because having this flat on the desk is actually super annoying, and you really do need to prop it up with something to really get a better view on the LCDs, and it just makes it nicer to use. Okay, so when we hit auxiliary, I'm pretty sure this shows us our track stacks in Logic. So we've got a drum track stack, bass, and our guitar track stack. And I think it shows us kind of like any sends that we make within these as well. So any of those sort of buses that you make within your track stacks will probably show up here after the main track stacks. So let's take a look at using the faders on this and how that works. So let's just pull these down. We can pull them all down at once, don't have to do them one at a time, which is great. And now we've zeroed out our track. There should be nothing playing now. Now I'm going to hit play and I'm going to bring the tracks in and show you how the faders work. So pretty smooth, pretty seamless, really easy to kind of set levels and get a feel that way. So if you like the feeling of touching faders, that is just a really nice way of going through it. So really easy to just pull a quick mix with the faders and get a feel. So even if you've done all your processing and then you just felt like you wanted to reset your balance, you could pull everything down and just play around with the faders and kind of get a feel for the mix that way, which can be pretty nice. And even if you're just setting up a basic mix, you can just work your way through, get your levels, and you can also do all your panning. So if you hit pan and surround, this is the one I usually work in. When you have it in track and you play with these knobs at the top, it actually plays with the gain at the same time. So you need to have it in pan and surround, and then you can play with the panning of the track at the top. If you just push the button in, it resets it, and then you still have control over your fader level down here at the bottom. So if you hit the flip button, it actually turns the fader into the panner. So you can see that's moving around there. And then another great thing when using something like a control surface is to be able to use automation in touch mode. So you can really ride the faders and get a feel for your mix that way. So all you have to do is select the track that you want to add some automation to. I'm going to do the drum parallel compression, so a drum crusher, and then I'm going to come over here and put it into touch mode. And then what I'm going to do is when the chorus hits, I'm going to bump this up a little bit. I'm losing control. And you can see when I took my finger off, it actually jumped back down to where it was before because I was still playing the track. Now, if I had held it in place and then pressed stop, then it would stay where it was. Very similar to when you're using a mouse and you are doing automation and sort of riding it that way. If you unclick the fader while the track's still playing, it will jump back to where it started originally. And we can see up here, our automation has come in nicely. Obviously, you could go through and turn all of these into touch mode. And then you could go through and you could mix the drums and add little changes through the mix as you go. And then we can put them back into read mode just by touching them and hitting read. And so same deal with any of these things. So touch, latch, right, trim, basically just have it selected and you can assign that. Obviously you have all the other great things in here too, like you can fast forward through the track, stop, play, hit record. Really makes it nice and quick and easy having the transport bar here. Hitting the scrub button lets you move slowly and finer through the session with the transport wheel, and then obviously unchecking it, you can move quite quickly through it. Hitting drop lets you access the drop in feature, so you can drag this bar and set it where you want if you were just trying to punch in a certain section. So for example, let's say we're tracking over the kick, we can arm that, and then we can bring this back and hit record. And then it's only going to track in that highlighted section. And then it puts it into a folder where we can comp through it. So if you didn't want to make a comping folder, you could hit replace and have your drop at the same time. And then when you record over this section, it's actually just going to replace that section of audio with the new audio. We're not recording anything, but you can see it has replaced that section, which is a cool feature. There's all these other things at the top here. You got your EQ, you can access your plugins. Now, I'm not going to dive into this because it's super fiddly, and this is actually one of the things that I don't think that the X-Touch is really good for. I was having a play with it before, and say, for example, we're on our kick at the moment, we hit EQ, and we can go through turning the high pass filter on and off. That's like kind of the main thing that's here at the moment. If we hit EQ again, it dives into the EQ parameters. So that you got your low shelf, you can pick your frequency, you can boost it, change the shape of it, turn it off and on, bypass it, and so on and so forth. I just find that really tedious, but I actually couldn't find a button to bypass the plugin itself. But at the same time, just opening it up with a click of a mouse and changing a few things is way quicker than trying to access a plugin and do it on the X-Touch. I really don't think doing that stuff on the X-Touch has any benefit at all. Now you can also access sends, which is a good feature. So on our send here, it's at 0, but we could dial that back. So very easy to use on the sends. Pushing the button in resets it. So that's nice and easy. And even if you have it in touch mode, then you can dial in the amount that you're sending. So we might try that out. So we're going to select our snare trigger, and then we're going to just play with the send into our drum parallel compression. Now, let's put this into touch mode and see if it writes the automation when we play the send. Face planted straight into the truth. So you can see it wrote that automation in really easy while we played the knobs. And that could be a great way of doing something like a throw delay on a vocal. That could help you just have a better feel for feeding it into the effect. And these two buttons, priceless. Being able to hit save, and then also being able to undo anything that we've done at the touch of a button. So really cool if you're tracking something, someone makes a mistake, you just want to stop, undo, scroll back, hit record again. This is a really great way of navigating a tracking session and making it feel really seamless and smooth. Being able to turn your click off and on and whatever track you're on, hitting solo, like these things are just really useful to just have at your fingertips. So we've also got the plugin button up here. As I was saying, I don't think this is great for navigating through plugins, but you can do it. So whatever track you're on, if you hit plugin, it will show you the plugins on your strip. And then you can press the button of the one you want to access. So say we wanted to go into Clipper from Black Sold Audio, we touch that. And then we can use these knobs up the top to play with the threshold on those. So we can feed in the gain on this plugin. So this is a simple plugin with like a knob and a slider. So this is probably the best plugin to demonstrate this on when you have multiple buttons and switches and knobs in a plugin. It's just impossible to navigate on this. And then you have the threshold, so you can dial that in. So in a simple plugin, yeah, that's kind of fun. Like you can dial that in, but honestly, it doesn't really make anything that much quicker being able to do that. It's actually more tedious because you have to search through this stuff, select things, navigate through here. Like just use your mouse and it's way quicker. But the fact is you can do it. It's just tedious. So here's my kind of final thoughts on the X-Touch and whether I think it's worth it and whether you should have one in your studio. It really comes down to your workflow. Do you like using faders? Do you want to use your mouse less? Then yes, go get yourself a control surface and try it out. You won't know till you do it, but the X-Touch works pretty seamlessly with Logic. Besides the transport wheel issue that I have, even then it's still usable. But the faders themselves work really smooth, and when you're playing the track and you're riding them up and down, it feels really intuitive and just really nice to do. And if you're one who likes to get their hands on and sort of like feel like you are moving with the music as opposed to clicking and dragging a mouse around, then you will enjoy using a control surface. Having the transport bar in front of you, I know we can do a lot of this stuff with our keyboard, and you know, I'm very quick at this stuff now because I've been doing it for so long, but being able to quickly navigate, say if you're dropping someone in, they made a mistake, just roll this back, hit record, hit undo, lose the track that you don't want. Those things are so easy and nice to have in front of you. Hit save, you don't have to press any sort of command buttons or anything like that. Being able to cycle a range off and on, being able to turn the click off, just having to click there, turn it off. I know you can just hit K on the keyboard, whatever, but it's just nice to have it all in one little section that you can do all the transport stuff really easily. One of the biggest pluses is being able to have it in touch mode and feel that out and ride it in. You can play with your sends, doing throw reverbs, ride the fader up and down in a section. Just really fun. If you want to add a little bit of movement to a track, you can play it through. You can just sit on the faders and just bring things in and out and create a real flow to the mix. Obviously, you can do this all with a mouse as well. It just comes down to the feel for you. What's going to make things more exciting and make you enjoy the process more? Because the whole thing with the control surface, you can do all of this with a mouse and a keyboard. And it might just come back to, are you trying to free your hands up? Are you worried about kind of repetitive motions with your hands? Do you want to try and get away from the keyboard and the mouse and be a little bit more ergonomic with your mixing? Being able to mute and unmute two tracks at the same time, absolutely amazing thing with the X-Touch, and I love that for when I'm comparing sounds and trying to see what's an improvement and what's not. Whereas in Logic, there's no real way to do that. So we want to listen to this guitar, and then this one, I have to click and click. Whereas on here, I can jump between them. So I can easily hear the difference. That is an absolutely wonderful feature of having a control surface. So here's some things that I don't like about the X-Touch. Up until very recently, I had no colors on the LCD. They were all one color, and that was a really annoying thing because obviously I expected it on the box. I had all the colors. I expected that stuff to work, and when I plugged into Logic, there was no colors. So I'm not sure how long that's been around, but I just updated everything and now it's there, which is finally after 8 years, I've got colors on the LCDs, so that's kind of cool. And like I said before, accessing plugins, changing parameters in plugins, it doesn't feel right to me doing it here. This just feels like faders. Faders and panning, that's it. That's where it's at. Playing with plugins, it's not for me. Not with this. It doesn't speed my workflow up. It slows me down. So you might get quick at it and you might like it, but that's one of the things that I don't like this unit for. Do I think that you need a control surface in your studio, especially if you are a professional in the field? No, I don't. I don't think that this really means anything about your ability to mix or your skills. It just comes down to your workflow and if you would enjoy doing that. In fact, I hardly use my X-Touch, if I'm being honest. I just am so much faster with a mouse and a keyboard, and when I'm just trying to do things on the fly, which is a lot of the time, there's a lot to do, we're trying to get through things, I'm going to go for the thing that I'm quickest at. Now, if I have a little bit of time where I'm feeling sort of a bit more adventurous and want to play around, then yeah, I'll get on the X-Touch and I'll ride the faders and have a bit of fun with it. But that's mostly all it is to me. It's something enjoyable to be able to play with the faders as opposed to a necessity. But having this on the desk looks great. And when people see the faders jumping around and moving as we're doing things, they like to see that. That's fun. So even though I'm not using the X-Touch all the time, I do like having it in the studio and I do like having it as an option. Now, if you have been thinking about getting an X-Touch, and after watching this video, if it's made you feel like, yeah, I want to go get one, then please use the link in the description below. I'm going to have a link to Sweetwater's website, which I'm an affiliate with. And so it doesn't cost you guys anything extra, but if you use that link, it supports this channel and a small amount of your purchase comes back to the channel. So really appreciate that. And if you shop through Sweetwater regularly, that's a great way of supporting the channel. You can use the affiliate link below and a small commission comes back to this channel, which is a massive support. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that like button, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of the X-Touch, or if you have a different control surface, what do you like to use? If you need some drum samples or you're keen to check out a mixing course of mine, then jump on the website in the description below. That is also a massive support to this channel. If you find yourself having a bit of trouble dialing in reverb and delay on your vocals, then check out this next video coming up where I'm going to show you a couple of ways that I like to use it in mixes.
I'm losing control.